I can remember early on, there were some days, literally, I'd make $16.
Oh, wow.
I'd sell one or two plates. That was it. Yeah, that sucks. You can't.
Hmm.
There's no books you can read. There's no training or class you can go to prepare yourself for a day like that. You just. I'd love to sit here and paint a rosy picture of rainbows and unicorns, but it's not. There's going to be days when it rains
Hmm.
and nobody's buying. And then there's going to be other days when you sell out in an hour and you feel terrible because you didn't bring enough food. So you got to look at it more than just one. You got to look at it the bigger picture. So anyway, but yeah, those are the fun days, man. Making $16. I laugh about it now, but man, that was you talk about a tough. That's a punch to the face right there.
Exactly, because with barbecue is different from other food trucks because you can't wrap up barbecue. You can people gonna tell if it's old and you trying
Oh
to
yeah.
conserve it. So it's definitely different from normal food trucks and the process that you have to go through.
They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. Your barbecue on. Get your barbecue.
Ever notice how the sound of sizzling meat and the smell of smoke can silence the noise of the world? Now that's barbecue therapy. If the fire moves you, like, subscribe, share, and help spread the message because growth, like good barbecue, takes time and patience. Welcome to your therapy session.
Welcome to the BBQ Therapy Podcast. My name is Tavis Bryant. And on this episode, I have a special episode. I call this a me episode. I would like to bring people on that inspired me along the way. And this episode features a true underdog turned barbecue powerhouse, Kurt Mueller, the former financial planner who traded spreadsheets for smoker temps. He built Ironhead BBQ from a competition circuit favorite to a thriving food truck operation, and now he's gearing up to open a brick and mortar restaurant in North Augusta, South Carolina, with French ambitions. Along the way, he launched a podcast, The Barbecue Life, formerly Barbecue for Newbies, catering for festival employees and barbecue enthusiasts across the region with experience on Barbecue USA and a vision to take Ironhead national. Kurt's journey is as rich and flavorful as his barbecue lineup. From baby back ribs to tri-tip, he's carving his own path and his own style. It's time to meet Ironhead. Welcome to the show. One rule, make yourself at home, speak freely. This is more conversation and not all stiff and professional, so enjoy yourself and thank you for coming on.
I love it. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, no problem. I'm gonna take it way back to your early days of growing up. Did you grow up around barbecue or did you discover it later on in life?
I did grow up around it. So my dad really taught me how to do it when I was probably 8 or 9.
Hmm.
And nothing fancy, right? Just old school black Weber charcoal grill. I think we all had them growing up. And I still have one actually. But yeah, my dad taught me how to do it when I was 8 or 9. And that just ignited that passion for it. And then I guess the rest is history, as they say.
So did you start practicing? How long did it take you feel comfortable enough to jump to the next level?
Oh, I would say I never felt comfortable. Here's the deal. If you feel comfortable, you ain't doing something right. So I don't think I've ever felt comfortable along the way. When I got into competition barbecue, I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt, hey, you got to jump in with both feet. And the same thing when I left financial planning. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. You got to, I would say you got to, my favorite sayings is you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good saying too. So as far as financial planning, what goes into that? Is that dealing with inheritance or just organizing people how they spend or what it goes into financial advisor?
Back in those days, we did really the full scope. So everything from investment management to budgeting, like you said, monthly budgeting to inheritance, estate planning, insurance, you name it. We covered all of it. And I loved it. It's a people business. It's no different than what I do now. Barbecue is a people business.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with people in a much different aspect of their life. Let's be honest. the conversations I have now are way more exciting than they were back when I was financial planning. At least when I'm at parties now with people and I tell them I own a barbecue restaurant, they don't turn the other way and run from me. But no, it's like I said, it's a people business. So we're just dealing with them in a different aspect.
You were that for 13 years. What triggered that leap into full-time barbecue?
Yeah, almost 13 years, like you said. I started competing in 2021, and like I mentioned earlier, never felt comfortable about it. I just jumped right in. But anyway, once I started competing, it really just refueled that passion, if you will. I learned a lot, met a lot of great people, and just kept raising my game, right? Learning how to cook different meats, different temperatures, different smokers, all that stuff. And fast forward, so that was the fall of 21 when we started. Fast forward to about the beginning of 23, and that's when I just had to have a conversation with the man in the mirror, right? As they say, as one of my favorites, David Goggins, likes to say, you got to have a conversation with the man in the mirror. And just came to the realization that I had lost my passion for it, and that wasn't, that's not fair to me. It's not fair to my clients. So I just made the decision beginning of 2023 that I was going to go all in on barbecue, and gave me about 6 months to get everything in line, communicate with my clients, etc. And so made the jump officially into full-time barbecue in September of 23.
That's a big decision, especially you having a family. There's a lot of pressure. How did that go over at home when you just came home and, honey, guess what? I'm gonna quit my job and start full-time barbecue.
It went over like a lead balloon. I mean, it didn't go over very well. It didn't. And it's one of those things where it is what it is. That decision, I'm divorced now, of course, but that decision was made prior to those proceedings. It's one of those things where, yeah, certainly you want to discuss a move like that with your significant other. And it can be challenging because not everybody's going to get the support
Mm-hmm.
that I have. And that's life.
Yeah, because that's your vision, your dream, and you have it planned out. And it's good to have somebody to, hey, I see you doing it. Go ahead, do what you want, versus somebody that's bucking heads against what you're trying to do. But and again, just like you said, you took 6 months to figure it all out, and you just in one day just say, "I'm done. Let's go barbecue." So that's the key, also, to taking your time and plan ahead and get everything straight. So when you transition, it won't be big of a hit. That's definitely a good way that you did it. How did your financial background play into competing as far as financial planning? Did that play into any way you dealt with competing?
I think it comes down to one very important aspect of competing, and that is time management, right? Especially with all the different turn-in times you have. If you're doing a KCBS sanction, you've got those 4 turn-in times. So you got to manage your time. You got to manage all the various things you got to line up. So I think time management's a big thing that I learned doing financial planning with the schedule that we kept. The calendar was real tight. And so I think that helped a lot on the competition side. Now, the timing of things isn't as important on the commercial barbecue side. And we can get into that. I don't want to jump ahead. But to answer your question, I think the time management was the biggest skill that carries over.
Okay, okay. And when you did your first competition, how did that go?
We did our first one was actually September of 23 up in Cartersville, Georgia, at a Harley Davidson with the Georgia Barbecue Association. I want to say there was 28, 29 teams. We finished middle of the pack. We finished, I think, 15, 16 in that competition. So not great. We weren't dead last. We weren't first by any means, but it was a lot of fun. Learned, like I said, learned a ton, met some great folks, very supportive folks at the GBA. And that's how we started, is we started competing in GBA, did a few SCBAs, and then jumped into KCBS.
Okay, okay. And your barbecue style, how do you describe it? How do you describe your barbecue style? Do you plan everything, or sometimes in the middle of the competition you may alter something, or do you stick by the book mostly when you did it?
I know the big thing is everybody talks about doing the same thing every time and all that, and that's just not me. Maybe that's why we didn't do that great competing. I don't know, but I always like to change things up, and I feel like Competition barbecue is no different than life. 98% of the time you got a plan. It's not going to go according to plan. You have a temperature or a temperature probe fail, you lose power, you have some bad wood that you put in your smoker, you got some bad meat, you drop some meat. There's all kinds of things that could happen, right? For me, I don't know. I'm not, again, that's probably why we didn't do that great competing, because I always like to change things up. I never stuck to the same thing. I'm not saying everything was changed, but we would always, if I just got a gut feeling about something, I'd roll with it. And sometimes it paid off and sometimes it failed miserably.
Did you take any classes back then or
I
go
took
on?
a ton of classes. Yeah, that's one thing I'd recommend anybody getting into competition barbecue is the classes are really important. I took Robbie Royal's class, which is amazing class. If you want, Robbie's a wealth of information, stand-up guy, very willing to share what got him to his level of success. He was a huge catalyst for us in the beginning. So I can't say enough great things about Robbie. I took his class. I took the Atlanta Barbecue Stores class. They have that in January, I think. So I took that one year. I signed up for Myron Mixon's class, and now I'm just thinking about it. I never actually went, so that's probably not a good thing. But I hear that's a good one. And I'm trying to think, there was one more class I feel like I took, and now I'm drawing a blank on it. I also bought Robbie's online courses. That's how it all started. Is I bought Robbie's online classes and started there, and then that kind of gave me a base, and then I started taking the in-person classes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I took Robbie's and I took Myron. Myron was it gives you tips and stuff, but it's mainly for to me it's mainly for show and selling products, and because it's one, it was like maybe 60 people there, and it he gonna feed you. You left with 2 gallon sized bags of meat, but I think it's more a show than okay, I'm going to learn. It's more backyardish, I guess. But he does the whole hog and the different comp meats, but I think it's more geared for just going shooting the breeze and stuff like that. But that $9.75 price tag was
Steep.
Yeah, but like you said, Robert was on point with his.
Much, yeah. Yeah, and he gives you, back then he'd give you a playbook. He would give you
Mhm.
like his a binder of all the stuff that he did. So it was very helpful on the competition side. His class is very much focused on competing. Sounds like Myron's is more like just cooking at home kind of thing, which is not bad, but just different.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, he gave us the binder and did different associations and had information about all that. So it was very helpful. And like I said, like you said, I like taking classes also because everybody has something different to give. Most of the process, a lot of them are the same, but there's tips, little small things here and there that you may not have thought of that you can pick up, as well as I like going there just to make connections with some of the people that come there. And I made so many friends just from people just sitting in the audience and just talking to folks and fellowshipping. So that's why I like going to them. But I've been to 5 myself because I've been to Luke Darnell, Joe Pierce, and Chris Schaefer's class also. And
There you go.
they were awesome also. I recommend to anybody that have an interest in it, definitely take a class, and it cuts the cost of having to go out there and do trial and error. So it's definitely helpful. You started out as Atomic City Smokers. What made you change to Ironhead BBQ?
A big thing for us was when we started, I had two guys helping me, a friend of mine and my brother, and they didn't want to compete as much as I did in the early days, and so they took a step back. And I also realized that this might turn into a business. So my biggest thing was I wanted to protect the brand name. I wanted to protect the name for branding purposes. So I met with a trademarking attorney, and he told me that I couldn't trademark Atomic City Smokers because there was too many Atomic City fill in the blanks out there, right? So I said, all right. So I went back to the drawing board, and Ironhead was a name that my high school football coach gave me way back in the day as a nickname. So I started playing around with ideas, and I just liked the way it sounds. I liked the way it sounded. Had some graphics made, and then went back to the attorney. And once he gave me the green light, says, "Yeah, you can trademark that." then I said, all right, let's do it. Got a trademark, protect the brand, because I do want to be able to franchise that out nationally one day.
Okay, okay. That makes sense. Okay, and you were on Barbecue USA. How did that change your life? Did it make you more recognizable? Did it help get sponsors? How did that play into boosting your barbecue life?
Yeah, it was a ton of fun, no doubt, to be with Michael Simon and the crew on Barbecue USA. So for us, what we saw is it really grew our social media. We didn't get any sponsors as a direct result of that, just to be clear, but it definitely boosted our social media presence, and which led to increased awareness. We started getting a lot of requests for catering to kids' birthday parties, graduation parties, that kind of thing. And so it really helped us from a branding standpoint, just launch us out there. But like I said, we didn't get any sponsors necessarily from it, but it did help with our overall social media presence in a roundabout way. It definitely helped with name recognition, which led to more catering opportunities.
Oh yeah, I actually had a brief 3-second cameo on one of the episodes because we had went to Memphis in May. I took my wife up there in 2023, and we was Blues Hog was doing their presentation, and
Yep.
one of the people there, they was very friendly to me. Mark Bayless, he called me over. Come on, you can get up here and listen to why they do their presentation for the judges. So I'm sitting up there, and next thing you know, I told my wife that'd be funny if I was on TV. And I'm sitting there watching episode 10 of season 2, and I'm sitting right there crowded in with them. I was like, oh, okay. Got my
There
three
you go,
seconds of
man.
fame. All right. And you said you were with GBA and then you switched to KCBS. What are your thoughts on each, and what made you ultimately switch into KCBS?
For me, they're both both great organizations, very different organizations, right? GBA only judges pork. So you get your pork loin, pork ribs, pork butt. KCBS, of course, has all four: your chicken, your brisket, pork, and ribs. For me, I want to be able to cook beef, and that's why I did it. And selfishly, there was more KCBS events closer to me than GBA, so it was just a convenience factor for me. But the biggest thing was I wanted to get more experience cooking the chicken, cooking the beef. That was the main reason behind it.
And we're going to switch over to the podcast. And like I told everybody at the beginning, that one of the main reasons I started the podcast was because of you. For those that don't know, that you had a podcast back in the day that was catered towards people that were starting in barbecue, and basically giving people backgrounds and giving people tips and stuff like that. And like I said, this is a me episode where I like to bring people on that's instrumental in helping me get along in barbecue. And like I said, I want to thank you for having that podcast and helping me learn while I'm riding in the car, because where I work out, it's like an hour away, so I can listen to a few episodes driving back and forth and stuff like that and getting tips. I say I thank you for thinking of the people that didn't know much and investing in us, because you didn't have to do that, but you took time to think of others and help educate others on the world of barbecue. So I want to thank you for that. And what made you get into podcasting?
I was like, what probably similar reasons that you started a podcast. I really love barbecue. I wanted to share what I had learned from everybody else with everybody that I could. When I was looking at the podcast landscape, I realized that there wasn't a whole lot of podcasts out there that talked about the whole scope of barbecue, competition, restaurant, backyard, just the whole everything. So that was what drove me to start the podcast. Was I just felt like it was a great way to share the message and make those connections, get a chance to get introduced to people that you wouldn't normally be introduced to, and network with folks. And so yeah, those were the driving forces behind me starting it.
Yeah, it's definitely a gamble, because when I started, I'm thinking like, okay, ain't nobody gonna sign up, and how is this gonna go, or how I'm gonna do. I'm not a people talkative person and stuff like that, but it's an experience that I'm learning as I go along, and people have been willing to sign up. Because I've record, and then I bring them out one by one. I had to slow down in taking the invitations because did 20 in 1 month. So if
Yeah.
people are out there willing to share their story and their products and stuff like that, and it's exciting to see that people willing to help other people by coming on, giving their stories. As I said, it's like you pass the torch, and I want to take it and carry it on and continue on what you're doing, as well as give you your props for what you did for me, and as well as what I do probably for the next person, and keep it going. To think of those that are starting out and let them know they're not left out, and give them that boost that they might need to jump into whatever they want to do, whether it's food truck, restaurant, or just cooking in the backyard, just getting better. So you started around the time you were, how far into competing were you when you started the podcast? Was it around the same time?
Let's see. We started the podcast. It was probably, I'd say we were it was a year. Yeah, it's about a year into competing. Excuse me. So I started competing in the fall of 21, and the podcast came out like end of summer 22. So a little less than a year.
Okay. And how hard was that process of getting started, as well as staying consistent doing the podcast?
It's overwhelming. There's just so many things to think about when you start a podcast. How are you going to record it? What equipment do you need? What's your background going to look like? And for me, I didn't really think about any of that. I was just like, the toughest thing for me was, okay, what's the logo going to look like? What's the name, right? What's the name going to look like? What's the logo going to look like? What equipment do I need? So it was a lot of time spent. You almost get analysis paralysis, right? You just, so many things to think about. And you're like, for me, it was a little overwhelming. I was lucky that I took a podcasting course from a girl named Heather Parody, who's become a great friend of mine. Anyway, at the time, she was offering like how to start up a podcast course. And it was like a 4-week course. And I'm a list kind of guy, right? Just don't tell me how the watch is made. Tell me what time it is. So just give me action items to do, and I'll go out and do them and just cross them off, right? That keeps me organized. Anyway, so that helped me just in terms of what equipment I needed, what was my recording, how was I going to record it, all that fun stuff. And then from there, once you get the base stuff, the important things, then you can start adding on the bells and whistles, so to speak. Like you got a background and you can get all kinds. It's just like anything else, right? There's a whole market for podcasters, and you can spend as much money as you want to. There's just, it's like any other niche market, right? It's people that are into cars, people that are into barbecue. There's products for days. So
Exactly.
you can get out of control with it, but I would say to anybody who wants to start a podcast, hell, the technology is so great nowadays. You could literally start a podcast with nothing more than your phone.
Exactly. That's true.
And the biggest thing I noticed too, there's a lot of podcasts out there, but there's not a lot of podcasts that are consistent. That's the key. You got to be consistent, whether it's weekly, whatever it is, just stick to that consistency.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that advice for myself, because like I said, I didn't know what I was getting into since I've never did anything like this. I didn't have no media background. So YouTube, just watching
Yep.
and learning, go on Amazon, see what little products here and there. Like you said, it doesn't take a lot. Half of the stuff I already had
Right.
in here, I just pieced it together. I bought the background here behind me for Vistaprint, and then just go from there. But it doesn't take a lot of people try to tell people you need this, need $700 microphones and all this other stuff, and have folks broke before they even get started. But it doesn't take much to get started. And my thing is mainly doing your homework and having a game plan as far as when it comes to interviewing people and just meeting people, period. People like when you know who they are and stuff like that. I do my
That's right.
homework, so when there's an opportunity, I can walk up and say, "Hey, so and they look like they know." I've done that numerous times and know about people. And from YouTube, books, or anything like that. So when the opportunity comes, I'm prepared and know how to present myself to them, know
Right.
about them and stuff like that, which makes them more welcoming and it helped me out greatly on a lot of people that I met, and some of the people I didn't have early on. They probably wondering, okay, he didn't have Harry Sue on here, he didn't have Tim Shear, Chris Schaefer, he had you on here, and it had Rooters and Tutors on here, and
Yep.
I only been on here a month, and
Yep.
the thing is that everybody don't know, and everybody some people trying to feel out, okay, who is this guy and all that. But some people that I met, they know, okay, this is a welcoming guy. This guy knows his stuff, and he's not taking this as a joke. And I'm being serious about it, and they invested in me, and I appreciate that they're doing that and knowing that I'm here to stay and I'm here to offer something to people to help them out. So it's definitely been great start to doing this. There's some downside because it's tedious and stuff like that, and I don't have a team. I'm doing this all by myself, with editing and making all types of graphics and stuff like that, and promoting yourself and stuff like that. But it's helping me learn and be more professional, and as far as organized as well as that. But I know, but it's a lot that goes into it that people don't know. People just think you just click on the on button, record, and go on about your business. But it's dealing with people trying to get organized and coming up with the interviews to be different from everybody else and not ask the same questions. But it's I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world because I love barbecue that much, and I love the people of barbecue that much, that it's worth it to come out my comfort zone to do this and help people. That's why I say I definitely thank you for giving me that push into doing this. So the food truck, what made you want to get into starting a food truck? Did you see somebody else with a food truck and investigate, or what made you want to get into doing a food truck?
No, I think for me, going back to what we were talking about with the social media and how Barbecue USA helped us with that, that opened the door to be able to pick up business, whether it was some graduation parties or birthday parties, whatever it was. But that started getting our name out there. And then when I realized I didn't want to do financial planning anymore, the next thought was, okay, how am I going to make a living? Right? You got to make a living. You got to live. Got to work. And I knew that I had a passion for barbecue. I knew that people liked our food. So I said, all right, I don't have $1.5 million laying around to go build a restaurant and buy all the equipment. So what's the most cost efficient way for me to get into the barbecue business? And that's a food truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
That led into, all right, what's the next step? When we got the food truck up and running, then we had to upgrade our trailer. So we went from our original black trailer to the blue trailer. And then literally about the same time we got the blue trailer is when the building that's 2 blocks from my house came up for lease. So anyway, but to answer your question, that the transition was basically number one, a need to make a living, right? Got to be honest with yourself. You got to generate revenue unless you're a trust fund baby. And then two, where's your passion lie? My passion lied in barbecue. So I'm like, you know what? I think I can make this profitable.
Okay. And how was that? How hard was that process of getting started, as far as initially having the idea to actually getting the first customer?
For us, it was gradual. I wouldn't say it was that challenging to get the first customer because we had already laid some groundwork just from our competition days. They'd eaten our food. So we had some, it was a small customer base, but it was still a base. The biggest challenge when you go from like just doing catering to a food truck, there is no guaranteed revenue there, right? When you do a catering job, let's say the job's $1,000, okay, I'm getting paid $1,000. But when you go set up your food truck somewhere, you don't know what you're getting. So the biggest challenge to that for me, the biggest punch to the gut, so to speak, was I can remember early on, there were some days, literally, I'd make $16.
Oh, wow.
I'd sell one or two plates. That was it. Yeah, that sucks. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
There's no books you can read. There's no training or class you can go to prepare yourself for a day like that. You just. I'd love to sit here and paint a rosy picture of rainbows and unicorns, but It's not. There's going to be days when it rains
Hmm.
and nobody's buying. And then there's going to be other days when you sell out in an hour and you feel terrible because, you didn't bring enough food. So you got to look at it more than just one. You got to look at it, the bigger picture. So anyway, but yeah, those are the fun days, man. Making $16. I laugh about it now, but man, that was, you talk about a tough, that's a punch to the face right there.
Exactly, because with barbecue is different from other food truck because you can't wrap up barbecue. You can people gonna tell if it's old and you trying
Oh
to
yeah.
conserve it. So it's definitely different from normal food trucks and the process that you have to go through. Can you run through a typical day of the food truck? Because a lot of people don't know what goes into the background as far as when it comes to cooking meat, having to get up early and stuff like that. Could you run through a process of a food truck day to show how long your day is?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would preface this by saying that everybody's timelines and their structure is going to be slightly different because it all depends on what are you cooking, what's your cooker, what's your personal life like, what are your other obligations. So all this is going to be different. But for me, in the early days when it was just me,
Hmm.
I had to develop processes and systems that were repeatable and that were maximizing my time efficiency because I was only one person. I'd put the big cuts of meat on around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So your butts, your brisket, your beef ribs, those go on the smoker. And at the time, we primarily cooked on a deep south gravity fed smoker, GC 28. We've had her for almost 4 years now. Her name's Babe. Anyway, so I would cook low and slow. 235 was my cooking temperature. So 4 o'clock, the big meats go on. I usually am up at 3 a.m. That's when I'm wrapping everything, the butts, the brisket, the beef ribs. That's also when I'm putting on the smaller cuts of meat, right? The chicken, the ribs, tri-tip, and then I'm getting the sides ready. Usually the sides are prepped the day before, so we smoke our mac and cheese, we smoke our baked beans. So anyway, all that goes on around 4 in the morning, give or take, and then I go work out, come back about 6:30. Usually there's something like usually by that point in time, the butts, the brisket, the beef ribs, they're ready to come off. They go in the Cambros to rest, and then I'm periodically checking the sides and stuff like that. And then our goal was usually we serve lunch from 11 to 2. We like to get to the place an hour early to be able to set up. So my target to head that way was always around 9:30 in the morning. So that was I guess my guideline was okay, how close is it to 9:30? And that's when you start around about 8:30 is when I would start getting all the preparations for the trailer itself, going through my checks. Do I have enough paper towels? Do I have enough gloves? Do I have enough sauce? Like all that stuff, right? Hooking the trailer up, getting all that ready with the goal to leave by 9:30. And then you serve from 11 to 2, clean up by the time you get back, 3:30, and then the whole process starts again. So at 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
so in the early days, we were doing 5, 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week. Since then, since I got the trailer, I hired more people, and now I'm at the point where I don't even work on the truck anymore. I'm all at the restaurant
Okay.
driving that ship.
Okay. And I noticed when I look at your menu, you serve a lot of meats that people typically don't serve, and the quality of your meats are way different from other people's. What made you decide to do the higher quality meats on your food truck?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head there. Number one, we're not trying to be like everybody else. People ask me what style is our barbecue, and I say it's Ironhead style. We're not trying to be Texas. We're not trying to be Midwest. We're not trying to be West Coast. We're trying to be our own style, do our own thing. Some people like it, some people don't. That's okay. We're not going, no matter what we do, we're not going to make everybody happy. So
Mhm.
our style is Ironhead. That's just how we roll. That goes back to what you said. We serve tri-tip. That's West Coast. You're not going to find that on the East Coast. Very few and far between. Dino beef ribs, the dino ribs, that's Texas. Your brisket, Texas. And then, of course, our baby back ribs, pulled pork, that's southeast. And chicken, man, I hate chicken. I don't like cooking chicken. I'll be honest with you, I don't. My staff gives me a hard time about it. I cook it because people want it. And I understand that I'm in a service business and sometimes you got to give the people what they want. But anyway, but to your point, one of the things I looked at from the numbers side, right? When I analyzed, okay, when I looked at the industry locally, right? I'm in the Augusta area. So when I looked at the local market for barbecue, I kept seeing the same thing over and over again: chicken and pork, chicken and pork, chicken and pork, right? Nothing wrong with chicken and pork. I like it, except for chicken. But there's nothing wrong with it, right? But that's what people are used to. Now, from the business side of things, I understand commercially, there's a reason they sell a lot of chicken and pork. It's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheap. And guess what? Here's a secret not a whole lot of people want to know. They can put it in the fridge and reheat it for the next day, and you're not going to lose a whole lot in quality because it's chicken and pork, right? You're just not. So I said, we want to be different. I don't want to be the same. And beef is what separates us. So that's what I decided. Is I said, you know what? We're going to be the kings of beef, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our chicken's going to be great. Our pork's going to be great, but our beef is what's going to separate us. And so once I made the decision to focus on beef, then it was, okay, where can I get the right product? Because tri-tip at retail prices, tri-tip is insane. You're looking at $10 to $12 a pound.
Ooh.
You can't, there's no way you could sell that commercially and be profitable. You'd have to sell it for $60 a pound. And that's just, you're not going to sell it to anybody.
Wow.
So I was fortunate. I found a beef distributor that's 12 minutes from the restaurant in Augusta, and all they do is beef. And they said, look, we can get you as much tri-tip as you need. I said, perfect. So I've been buying from them ever since. The other thing, like you said about quality, is I refused very early on, as I said, I'm not buying anything less than prime. It's going to be prime or better. With the way the beef market is, it fluctuates like any other market. What I found is that Wagyu beef, brisket specifically, is really not that much more than prime, but the quality difference is huge, huge. So I said, you know what? I'm willing, from a business side of things, I'm willing to take less margin, right? So I'm willing to make a little bit less to buy a better product, Wagyu, because I know long term we're going to have repeat business.
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone is comparing our brisket to another commercial brisket, chances are that outfit is cooking a choice brisket. Or maybe in some cases, some of the larger chains actually cook select. So you're talking about bottom of the barrel, right? Bottom of the barrel. So if you put a Wagyu brisket against a select brisket, there's no competition there. There's none. And I could say the same thing for a Wagyu versus as my son. I can say the same thing. I can say the same thing for a Wagyu against a choice. There's just no competition. I also know that the higher quality meat you buy, the greater your margin for error is. Because, like brisket, for example, there's way more marbling, way more fat in a Wagyu brisket than there is a choice. So my margin for error on that is much greater than a choice. So can I still dry it out? Of course. But my timing, I have much greater time right until that happens. Especially when you're in the commercial world and you're starting to staff up and you're hiring people that they don't, there are some folks, believe it or not, now they know now, but when they first started with us, they couldn't tell you, if they had a brisket laying next to a pork butt, they wouldn't know which to you and me sounds absolutely insane, right? You're like, what are you talking about? That's like an apple and an orange. Believe it or not, like I didn't know this. I just took it for granted because I'm around it all the time. But there are some folks, they've never seen a raw pork butt. They never cooked one. They've never seen a brisket or tried to. So for when you own a restaurant and you're hiring people who have never cooked anything, training them and getting them to not dry out the brisket, it's much easier to do that with a Wagyu than it is a choice. But from a business side, like I said, I analyze the numbers, and I know because I have because I have accounts with multiple food distributors, I can see their price of choice brisket. So I know what my competition's paying for it, right? and I know what I'm paying for my Wagyu. So I can buy Wagyu less than they're buying choice for. Right. So for me, it was, hey, let's buy it. Let's buy a higher quality. It helps with marketing. Everybody wants Wagyu. And to be clear, this is American Wagyu. This ain't Japanese Wagyu. Just to be clear out there, I'm not trying to get anybody all fired up. This is not Japanese Wagyu. I'd have to charge a lot more if it was. But for me, in our business model, I said, we're going to serve a higher quality grade of meat. We're going to charge more for that, but I believe people are going to pay more for it. And they do. So that's just, I view that as a more longer term play. Same thing with pork ribs. Most everybody in the business, and even competing, with the exception of Memphis Barbecue Network. So Memphis Barbecue Network, you're going to cook baby back ribs, right?
Mhm.
KCBS, GBA, SCBA, you're cooking spare ribs. I hate spare ribs. Don't like them. I don't like the little gristly thing on the end. Some people will say you can just cut it off. That's true. You can do the St. Louis cut, but now what are you going to do with the rest of that? And now you got to find. So to me, I'll cook a baby back rib all day long. I'll take baby backs over spare ribs all day long. Why? There's much less prep on my end for it. And I looked at the numbers. In my opinion, you can get a greater yield from a baby back than you can a spare rib based on the price per pound. In other words, what I'm saying is, I believe you get a better output on the cooked meat output on the back end. I think you get a better output per pound on a baby back versus a spare rib. So the cost is really marginal, but the quality, again, quality, going back to quality, in my opinion, when you take a baby back rib versus a spare rib, that baby back rib is going to have so much more meat on it. You're not going to have that gristle. And again, most outfits don't work. To my knowledge, we're the only ones in our area that serve baby back ribs. Everybody else serving spare ribs. Why? They're cheaper. But are they really? And in my opinion, they're not in the long run. Anyway, that's a long way to answer your question. But that's why I focus so much on quality because of, like I said, repeat business and your margin for error is so much greater. So it helps when you're staffing up and when you got people that just, they don't cook. They don't know.
Exactly. 'Cause a lot of people don't even know there's different types of meat. They don't know nothing
Right.
about prime. They don't know nothing about the Wagyu or the choice and stuff like that. And then once they try it, they like, this is good. I know I didn't, growing up, I didn't know nothing about that. I just thought all meat was the same in the store. But
That's right.
once I got into barbecue, you start learning, okay, they got different qualities of meat, and it draws your attention to the more higher quality meats and stuff that you can tell other people that's not good right there. Get this right here, or just giving advice to people as far as the quality of meat that doesn't know that. And what you're doing is stepping outside of the box where people just getting any meat because they like, oh, they'll buy it, but you're giving them quality. It's like a fine dining food truck that you have, that you set a standard for yourself and you sticking by that
Right.
standard regardless of what's going on. And you did your homework on trying to figure out a way to be able to get those higher priced meats as well as not breaking yourself in the process and giving somebody elevated experience that they may not be able to try any other place. Because any, like you said, most restaurants, they have the same old low budget meat, but they just think in their head like they're gonna buy it anyway and go from
Right.
there, as well as not putting thought into what size they have to go with the meat and stuff like that. And because that, to me, the size also play a big part of the barbecue meat. Because if you don't have good size, it throws it off. And some people don't. They have bad sides and stuff that come out of cans and all this other stuff that they didn't doctored up, and it throws off the barbecue, even if the barbecue is good. I've been to a couple of restaurants where the barbecue is good, but the sides are like, I don't want to eat this. And with
Right.
you, your sides are elevated, as well as you involved the dessert where you got the cakes and pies and stuff like that. So it's, even though it's a food truck, it gives the people the experience of a fine dining restaurant. but the casualness of being a food truck. So it's definitely, like I said, I'm looking forward to making a field trip up there to visit the restaurant. What made you transition to wanting a restaurant? Could you give a rundown of the restaurant, the size, and a little bit about the restaurant that you're on the way to opening?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer is because I want to build a national brand. I want to build a national franchise. I want an Ironhead BBQ restaurant in every single state,
Mm-hmm.
multiple locations, right? That's the end goal. So in order to do that, you have to have one, right? You got to start with one. And talk is cheap, right?
Yes.
I can talk all I want, but we have to show a proven business model. We have to show that our model works. And at the end of the day, numbers don't lie.
True.
So we have to show that we can make this work to be able to justify additional locations in our area and then justify locations in the Southeast and then growing nationally. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I felt like it was the next step for us, right? And sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good, right? So we got really lucky. A restaurant that had been closed, that was a former barbecue restaurant, had been closed for over a year. It's 2 blocks from my house. I'd been keeping my eye on the building, talked to some commercial realtors in the area, said, hey, listen, if you find out anything about this building, give me a call, let me know. Sure enough, a couple of weeks later, got a call. Hey, building was sold. It's bought by so and so. They're going to put it up for lease. Let's take a look at it. And so again, right place, right time. Now I had to fight off some other folks that wanted that building too, and it wasn't easy. It took 2 or 3 months just to hammer out the lease agreement. I felt like that was the next stage in our growth progression. And like I said, it's 2 blocks from the house. So when I had my boys up there helping me, they like, "Hey, Dad, we're done. Can we go home?" Sure, walk home. I didn't want to let that slip, and I had
Mm-hmm.
to make some concessions when you're in negotiations for anything, especially a commercial lease. You know, you're not going to get everything you want. The other side's not going to get everything they want. I feel like we hammered out a really fair deal, and we took over. The reason I wish I was open last week, but that building was very neglected. I've learned a lot about commercial structures. So I don't know anything about construction, but we've had a lot of amazing tradesmen and women helping us with that building because it's outside of my area of expertise. So the building itself is 3,700 square feet. It was a former barbecue restaurant, so that makes it a little bit easier. It's got an
Mm-hmm.
outdoor screened in smoking room. The kitchen is one of my favorite. The kitchen is outdated. The original building was built in 1974.
Woo.
So it's been there a minute. And it's been over those years, it's been all kinds of different things. But the kitchen, in my opinion, is one of the best features because it is so large and so open. And that's big when you got a lot of people running around and those kinds of things. Our design for the restaurant is to do what I would call cafeteria style, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a buffet. I don't want to ever do a buffet. That's just not our business model. But the biggest thing I was trying to figure out. So when we first started with our food truck, we worked out of a tent next to our trailer and people could see you slicing the meat, serving the food. When we went into a food trailer, they can't see that anymore. I wanted to bring that back. And obviously you got to go through and you got to comply with all the health the health department rules and all that. I figured out a great way to bring that back is to do it cafeteria style so that way people could smell the food when they come in, they could see it, and we want to be able to slice the meat in front of them. So we're going to be set up as we're a fast casual type of
Mm-hmm.
restaurant, right? Not full service. You're going to come in, you're going to see the buffet, you're going to pick what you want, pay for it, grab you a drink, go sit down, or get back in your car and leave. But we're not going to have table service or anything like that because I wanted to keep it simple,
Mm-hmm.
but also speed is important, right?
Yeah.
Especially, let's be honest here, right? A lot of the blue collar guys, that's our customers, man. They're barbecue people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an hour and a half for lunch.
Exactly.
They want to come in, they want to get their food, they want to get a good portion of food at a reasonable price fast. That's what they want. And that goes back to our food truck days because we go to Bridgestone, which is a big tire manufacturer, biggest one in the world, I think. But there's two Bridgestone plants that we go to every week with the food trailer, every
Mm-hmm.
week, Wednesday and Thursday. They got 30 minutes for lunch out there. They might walk 10 minutes. That plant's huge. They might walk 10 minutes to get to you. Okay. So now they got 10 minutes. They're not, so that all serving on the food truck, I think, helped us because we're so used to quality and speed. Got to be fast. And so I wanted to keep that at the restaurant. And the way that I figured out how to do that is to do the cafeteria style because it accomplished two things. One, it kept our speed and quality, but two, it still allowed folks to smell the food and see the food because at the end of the day, people eat with their eyes first.
Exactly.
Why do you think they got these big menus in these restaurants with these real bright colors when they're showing the dishes? It makes sense, right? So that's going to be the layout of our restaurant. Eventually, we're going to put in a bar and we're going to serve beer and wine. Football season's coming up, so I'm not stupid. Football and barbecue go together. But yeah, 3,700 square feet is the size of the restaurant. We sit on the lot itself is pretty small. It's about, I think the lot is a touch over half an acre. It's not very big, but the location is important. We're on a very well traveled road, 25,000 cars a day. I did my research there, I looked it up. And I also think it helps too that it was a barbecue restaurant for a very long time. So people are used to seeing barbecue there. Now it's just under a different name.
Like I said, I'm excited for you, and I'm proud of because those that follow your journey know where you started and where you're at now, and the stuff ain't easy. All the things you're doing are not easy. There's a lot to go in the food truck and a lot to go in the restaurants and behind the scenes stuff. And like I said, I appreciate you telling the not sugarcoating it and putting whipped cream and cherries on it and telling, hey, sometimes there's hard days. Sometimes there's stuff you ain't gonna know what to do. You got to get outside help and figure it out and stuff like that. So like I said, I enjoyed this interview and you gave a lot of knowledge and tips and stuff like that, and not fluffing it for people to make them think that everything's gonna be fine when they jump out there. There's gonna be some days you got to figure things out and figure out what are you doing and not knowing what to do at all when you jump into something. So I definitely appreciate all the advice you have been given on this episode. I saw that you had started seasonings. Can you talk a little bit about your seasonings, and then we'll wrap up from there?
Yeah, we did. So those came out a little about 2 years ago. We came out with brisket, beef, and pork seasoning, and I just got a lot of inspiration from existing seasonings on the market. It's nothing fancy. At the end of the day, it's all the same stuff. It's all salt and sugar. So don't anybody wants to create their own seasoning. Don't think you're going to come up with some magical formula. I promise you, someone's already. It's the mixture of it, right? That's the difference. But we launched those in July of 23. Found a great what they call co-packer. It's called a co-packer. So I don't bottle those. I just send off my recipe. It's about 2 hours away where they bottle them in Athens, actually. Not Athens. It's in between Athens and Atlanta, Bethlehem, Georgia. Anyway, send them my recipe. They bottle them for us, and then we sell them at the restaurant and sell them on our website. Brisket, beef, and pork, because those are the big three things that we sell. Our brisket works really well on steak. Excuse me. I use it on my ribeyes all the time. Our beef rub is, interestingly enough, our beef rub has become our all-purpose rub, not by design, just happened that way. We put it in our beans, we put it on our chicken. If we run out of pork rub, we use it on our pork sometimes. We have plans to come out with chicken, and we have plans to come out with an all-purpose rub and an SPG. I've also got plans to come out with sauce because people keep asking about sauce. But anyway, yeah, the rubs have been great. It does add some credibility when you have your own rubs, I think. But for those out there, don't think you're going to make a lot of money on rubs. You're not. You're not. Now, if you can get yourself like Lane's Barbecue, that's who does our bottling. Like them, if you can get yourself into Academy Sports and Bass Pro Shop, that's different. But I would say for most folks, it's really just an extension of your passion. Don't think you're going to make a lot of money. And really, if you're doing, if you're getting into barbecue, whether it's competing or commercial barbecue to make a lot of money, you're probably getting into it for the wrong reason because it's if that's your sole driving factor, then it's not, that's not going to get you through the tough days because there are going to be those days, like I said, where you make $16. So, but yeah, going back to our rubs, like I said, brisket, beef, and pork. The beef, like I said, the pork does have a kick to it. We use cayenne in it, so it doesn't stay with you. Like I said, I took inspiration from a lot of the commercial rubs out there. Heath Riles, Malcolm Reed, what's the Butcher's Barbecue, Jess Pryles. I took a lot of inspiration for them because they've already done it and they've got a good formula. And I took what I liked and I didn't take what I didn't like.
That's how you do it. And I heard that Elaine's is opening up a restaurant also. I don't know where it's going to be at, but I heard he's opening a restaurant.
Wouldn't surprise me if you haven't already had him on your podcast. You definitely should. Ryan's a great dude. He started. He's got a great story. He started selling barbecue at a produce stand on the side of the road, and now he's. They had to. I think they had to open up a location in Australia because they had so much demand. So he's international, but really cool story. And he and his team have been great to work with because I'm a very small fish in a large pond. I'm not ordering truckloads of rub. I'm getting a little tiny old pallet to go into my truck. But they've been great to work with. And when I need more rub, they get it ready and I go get it. So it's consistent.
Definitely good. And on that note, that completes the questions. I got 2 quick games and then I'm going to let you go. You know how in college basketball they have the tournament bracket? So I came up with a bracket of 16 different barbecue meats and you just pick which one that you prefer to eat. Matchup number 1 is beef ribs versus lamb.
Beef rib.
All right. Next matchup, smoked ham versus smoked turkey.
Turkey.
Okay. Next matchup is burnt ends versus hot dog.
Burn ends.
Okay. Next matchup is pork ribs versus steak.
Steak.
Okay. Next matchup is smoked bologna versus brisket.
Oh, brisket.
Okay. Next matchup is barbecue shrimp versus sausage.
Sausage.
Okay. Next matchup is pork chop versus smoked chicken.
Chop. You know the answer there.
Next matchup, pork belly versus hamburger.
Ooh, pork belly.
All right. All right. Next round, beef ribs versus turkey.
Beef ribs.
Okay. Next matchup, burnt ends versus steak.
Burn ends.
Okay. Next matchup, brisket versus sausage.
Brisket.
Okay. Next matchup is pork chop versus pork belly.
Pork belly.
Okay. Final 4, beef rib versus burnt end.
Burn ends.
Okay. And next matchup is brisket versus pork belly.
Ooh. Boy, that's tough. I'm gonna have to go brisket,
All right.
which means
All right. Finals, burnt ends versus brisket.
boy, that's real creative there. I gotta go burn ends.
Okay. All right. Burnt ends is the winner. I got one more quick tournament. I got the top 16, since you're from St. Louis, Cardinals fan. I got the top 16 players from St. Louis Cardinals since 1990 tournament.
All right.
All right. Matchup number 1, Pujols versus Matt Holliday. All right. Next matchup, Scott Rowland versus Jason Isringhauser.
Roland.
Okay. Ozzie Smith versus David Freese.
Oh, Ozzie Smith.
All right. Next matchup, Jim Edmonds versus Mark McGuire.
McGuire.
Okay. Next matchup, Yadier Molina versus Paul Goldsmith.
Yachty.
All right. Next matchup, Vince Coleman versus Lee Smith.
Oof. Coleman.
Okay. Next matchup, Chris Carpenter versus Jack Clark.
Carpenter.
All right. Next matchup, Wainwright versus Willie McGee.
Wainwright.
All right. Next round, Pujols versus Rowland.
Bulls.
All right. Ozzie Smith versus McGuire.
Ozzie.
Okay. Molina versus Coleman.
Molina.
Okay. Carpenter versus Wainwright.
Oof. Wainwright.
That's a hard one there. All right. Final four: Pujols versus Ozzie Smith.
Oh man, I got to go with the Wizard, Ozzy.
Okay. And Molina versus Wainwright.
Dang, got to go with Yachty.
All right. All right. The Wizard versus Molina in the finals.
Got to go with the Wizard, man.
Exactly.
Got to go with the Wizard.
All right. I appreciate you for coming on this episode and joining me. If you have anything to shout out, you can say that now, or anything to promote, you can go ahead.
Just give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X at Ironhead BBQ.
All right. And if y'all haven't seen the menu, the food truck menu is different. So, like you said, you're going to get the quality of a high-end restaurant and a food truck. And when the restaurant open, I will be there. So I definitely expect everybody else to come support the fellow barbecue people in the community, as well as you in that surrounding area. Like I said, I appreciate all that you've done for me, and the podcast, and your journey is inspiring to anybody that's trying to move forward in barbecue, whether it's food truck and the restaurant life, period. I just want to say thank you for me and the barbecue community for all that you're doing. So just keep up the good work, and I'm going, a couple months, I'm going to check back with you to come on and talk about how the restaurant going. So I look forward to that.
Absolutely. I look forward to it as well. And yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Keep doing what you're doing and keep calm and smoke on.
All right. I appreciate that. And we're on to the next episode.
We just wrapped up another session of barbecue therapy. Remember, stay patient, stay passionate, and keep that fire burning. Hit subscribe, share the good smoke, and pay the secretary on your way out. Have a blessed day.